team of researchers. Again, the goal is to help the fellow researchers, but I'll just add to it, we are open to work with PIs, undergraduate students, and definitely postdocs. And again, the main idea is to help with writing and reviewing. It could be any piece of science communication. It could be manuscripts, it could be grants, or even like some portion of the thesis. Now, again, this is a team, as I said, we have members who are postdocs, but also, people like Pam who are faculty advisors, but really help us in building up the team. And there are basically two ways that you can benefit from PSERT. The first being become a PSERT member. I'm going to tell you it's very useful. It's helpful in several ways. And it's very easy to become a member. The only thing you need is a consent from your PI that you're going to engage, some hours for the year to work with us. And I actually told you the work is basically, reviewing and editing and working together as a team. And then basically you get the consent form signed. What we expect is that you attend the workshop that Pam will conduct after this. And it's usually twice a year, and then one of which you're attending right now. And then as we get, documents submitted, manuscripts submitted, the expectation is that you at least, volunteer to review minimum 2 of them. Well, if you do not want to become a member yet, I keep on saying you can still take the benefit of the service so that you can submit your manuscripts, give it to the team. And I do want to add certain things here, how our ways are different than you submit it to a journal, because, we have all gone through that. So when you submit to a journal, you never see your reviewer, and the reviewer also never sees the author. What you get is, well, sometimes you get revisions and you're fine, but sometimes you get rejected. And quite often we also do not get to know the real reason, and we never know. But with this process, again, the main idea was before you go submit it to the journal, let's help each other. So the way we do is once we get any manuscript, again, it has to be a consent from the PI that he's okay that we submit it. I will assign reviewers, minimum 2, but I'm telling you almost every PSERT member, some of which are here, we all review it. And then we just do not give you, okay, your manuscript is bad or good, but we work towards constructive feedback. So we are going to give you feedback, and it's not just giving you your, Word documents or PDFs with comments. We meet. We will usually now have a Zoom meeting, and every reviewer is going to discuss what portion they think, what happened, what can be improved, and we discuss it. So I'll say, in a way, first of all, we all have to give back to the scientific community as a volunteer that we are doing. But we have to also realize that we are building up for ourselves. We are building up our professional presence as well as we are learning, because the more you do these, you not only engage in giving feedback, but when you meet, you communicate, you talk, you learn. And that's what I think I have benefit too. I do want to ask a question. I know you all are enjoying your lunch, but I might interrupt it and say, how many of you actually review for journals? Okay. Good. Yep, and me too. And how many of you are willing to review for journals, but you're still waiting? Oh my God, nobody approached me yet. Is there anyone in this room who wants to review, but he or she wants someone to approach? So in both of the cases, I think one thing that is very important is these days, professional presence. So you have to be visible on LinkedIn. And again, PSERT, remember, it is an association with a university, with an institution. If you become a member, you show your presence, kind of, people recognize you, and then you might get more opportunities towards that. And I think I honestly did that too. So before becoming a PSERT member back in 2020, I started reviewing, usually for us, somebody or the else will connect, and that's how you do your first review. It's a bit, nerve-wracking the first time, but eventually it goes good. But then I joined PSERT and I was doing it. I think the best part that happened to me was, going through these trainings and reviewing for others, kind of helps you when you write your own papers, because you have developed that critical mindset at this point. Okay, this could be a question. This is where people can ask. So that can helps you improve yourself. So that's the most important benefit I think I got from PSERT. And again, make it visible on Web of Science, Publons, LinkedIn, so that you get more visibility and you get more options to review, because these things count. Well, so having said that, I'll say that please consider becoming a PSERT volunteer, PSERT team member, and Pam will take us through the wonderful training. She'll guide us through that. It will be very helpful. Any questions, please let me know.
Questions?
Okay,
Yes.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Let's say being a reviewer, I will have certain kind of background on theory. So I did my PhD in a certain particular background. Now I have shifted to the postdoc and I am learning new techniques.
Yeah.
So what I feel here,
Mhm.
I am not have gone or I have not grasped that particular field very well enough
Yeah.
so that I can give a proper critique or review.
Yeah.
Kind of in a
Mhm.
learning phase.
Yeah.
Though I have the PhD, but
Yeah.
I feel postdoc, I'm new, I have joined a new PhD program.
Yep.
Something like that.
Mhm.
So I feel that I'm not ready yet, and I may need another 3 years
Yeah.
to get into this
Yeah.
technique
Mhm.
in detail.
Okay.
So should I wait
Yeah.
for my 3 years to
Sure.
complete, or
Yeah.
I can get into it?
I want to answer that because that's a very good question. And I think I might have felt the same when I was in your stage, back in 2017. One way you can do is if you join the team, you do not have to give any feedback, but you can be part of those meetings when others are discussing. And I think the other thing that, directly or indirectly pushes us to read about additional aspects beyond our narrow focus is when you engage in these activities. Because once you learn, many a times when you review a paper, it could be something related to your field, but then you might get interested in that part as well. So I think that's when you can still, it's, as I said, it's a volunteer thing. So you do not want to give feedback, it's okay. Just write your feedback if you want, but do not share if you don't want to share it with the authors. But if you be the part of the meeting that we do, I think that's the wonderful part about our feedback. It's not we just don't write and send it out. We discuss. You can listen to others, who might have experienced and now they can give better feedback, so as to say. But to me, I think any feedback is important, so it's worth considering. Pam, if you want to add something.
No, I was just gonna say, let me know at the end of this session if you still feel this way. My job today is to persuade all of you to feel confident that you can participate if you want to. So that's how I feel. And first of all, let me say thank you for inviting me. I love Postdoc Appreciation Week because postdocs are the backbone of everything that we do at Jefferson. So you are the unsung heroes. Once a year, we get to sing your praises, and this is that week. So anyway.
I have another question, just very quickly. So if you're part of the team, did you get any sort of like certificate or something that you can show?
I think this question came up last workshop too, and we should consider, so we should work with JPA to actually give these certificates because, yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes it's very important that like having this knowledge about editing and everything, but people is like want proof, right?
Yeah, I think the people who got lucky is who are currently on the PSERT, website.
Mhm.
So, but that kind of changes every year. So I think we should definitely consider. We should discuss that.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Ankita. All right, so I'm gonna make this kind of quick because I think the real learning happens when you actually participate. But in order to participate, the postdocs who originally created this group, this team, said we think it should have a little bit of training to start off with. And so we always start off with this training session, and then let's see how you feel about your participation, whether you want to or not. But also I came yesterday and it was great. The presentations were great. The posters were great. Oh, Lisa Kozlowski said, yes, I'm happy to create a certificate with PSERT for this activity. So there you go. Yeah, okay. Sounds good. And you can start it. That was easy. All right, so this is what we're doing today. I'm going to kind of breeze through. As I said, I do teach scientific writing here at Jefferson, and I teach scholarly writing foundations. And for those of you who do not know me, how many of you do not know me? Don't know me. You've never seen me before. All right. So that thing that says OPWPC, that is the Office for Professional Writing, Publishing, and Communication. I'm here for you. So every researcher, PI, author, co-author at Jefferson has access to free editing and library support service at Jefferson. So you can come to me at any time and get support for manuscripts that you're working on. And if I don't have the answer, I will send you to the right person. You can work with librarians who can help you with the literature review. You have a lot of resources at Jefferson. So I think Lucky will tell you that we have, I'm going to go over some of the resources, but we have a lot of resources for you. All right, so Ankita introduced PSERT. I was there from the beginning. It's such a great group of people, and we're going to talk about for this session ways to improve content, clarity, and conciseness in your writing. And there will be a little tiny quiz. Tiny. Look at your faces. You're like, no, I have a PhD in science. I don't want to take a quiz on. No, just an exercise, just to get you thinking about it. All right, so the purpose of this is to equip volunteer PSERT reviewers to share and edit manuscripts for publication. So participating in this really equips you to review other people's writing. And I always say to people, here's reassurance for you. This may be, English may be your second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth language. Okay, so I know the postdocs here have many languages that they speak, and English may not be the first one. That doesn't matter. You are well-educated, your PhDs, and if you don't understand it, that means that it's not written clearly. Of course, you may not understand the science that's in someone else's lab, but you can read it and understand whether it's justified or not based on the literature review. Have they established a gap in the science, right? Those are some basic things that all the people in this room can look at a manuscript and say, I don't know where this came from. You didn't establish a justification here. So these are things that you can help with. So you can help other people even if your punctuation isn't that great, because that's not that important. Someone else can help with the punctuation, but they may not be able to help with the bigger picture of, has this been scientifically, soundly explained? And that's where you come in. I'm not a scientist. I'm a writer. My background is in writing. But that doesn't stop me from reading all the science at Jefferson. I read grant applications, I read manuscripts, I read everything. Even if I don't understand it, I can look at it and say, don't think that you have established X, Y, and Z. Not because I'm a scientist, but because I'm a writer. So I hope that gives you a little bit of confidence that you have something. Now, why would you want to be a reviewer? How many of you have received rejections from publishers? Yeah, everybody. This is the little joke about reviewer 2, right? Reviewer 2, go back to the shadow, because it's somehow always reviewer 2 that's sending you most of the comments. There are a lot of memes on the internet about this. Well, why would you want to be a reviewer? Anybody? Why would you want to be a reviewer? It makes you a better writer, for one thing, yes. And it begins to help you understand what's happening in your discipline, right? You're reviewing other people's papers and you're seeing what's happening in that field, in that discipline. So you want to be a reviewer. It's a professional advancement. You learn this much in the lab, but then when you begin to read other people's work, you learn even more. So it's part of your training as postdocs is to read other people's work. That's why you want to be a reviewer. So let's talk about improving content and purpose. Let's say you volunteer and you become a PSERT reviewer. All right, so let's talk about the function of an editor, looking for purpose and meaning in the draft, and avoiding plagiarism. We have lots of tools for that. If that's an accidental thing, you're not trying to be a plagiarist. I don't think you're trying to plagiarize. All right. So what does an editor do? They help writers communicate ideas, words, and symbols better. So we review content using author guidelines and the PSERT editing process. So whenever someone submits to PSERT, we ask them, what journal are you submitting to? or what are you submitting to, whether it's a conference, a journal, etc. And they send us the guidelines along with the manuscript, because the guidelines help us understand what measure are you trying to meet. And then we look at the guidelines and we look at the manuscript, right? So that's sort of the process. Then here's kind of the flow. The writer submits a draft to PSERT. 2 editors are assigned to it. The editors meet in a round table, and that's usually via Zoom. So the editors and the author will meet together. So let's say you decide, I want to submit to PSERT. I'm not ready to be a volunteer, but this is what you get. You get 2 reviewers who sit with you and give you their feedback on your manuscript. They do this before you send it to your PI. So it kind of smooths out the writing a little bit before your PI reads it. So it really helps make your writing stronger. And then the writer will revise the draft and submit it to their PI, the publication, or to my office, because I'm happy to review it as well. Now, this is a painting called The Gross Clinic. You can see it over in College Hall. It's a very famous painting here in Philadelphia, a lot of controversy associated with it. When this painter painted it, he actually came to Jefferson to anatomy classes. And this is him at the Gross Clinic, Professor Gross. If you're ever out behind the library and you see that statue, that's him with the hair. That's Samuel Gross. And he taught here in the 1800s. And this young artist used to sit in his clinic and watch him do surgery. Well, the painting at that time was considered too gruesome for public consumption. People didn't like it. And the faculty at Jefferson actually paid $300 for the painting because they wanted to support Thomas Eakins, the artist. They felt bad for him because no one would buy it. Well, it sat at Jefferson for about 100 years, and then Jefferson sold it for $65 million. Yeah. So when you're in your labs with your nice equipment, you can thank Thomas Eakins for the equipment that his painting supported. I'm connecting dots that may or may not be real, but one of the things I wanted to do is like dissect. And so I use this painting to introduce this idea of dissecting journal articles. And we're going to do that. So my metaphor here, my analogy is when you go into Starbucks, how do you get a coffee? How many of you go online first and use your phone? Anybody know? Okay, so you walk. Nobody goes to Star. Okay, I don't go to Starbucks, but people do. People go to Starbucks. All right, so you go in a coffee shop. How do you know where to go? You usually know because on one side of the store, whether it's Starbucks or someplace else, there are people standing in line. And in the other side, there are people standing around on their phones. So you know one side is where people are ordering coffee, and the other side is where people are waiting for coffee, right? You kind of get the flow just by glancing at it. I'm telling you this because this is an analogy for scholarly journal articles. They're not all the same, but they have similarities to them where when you read a scholarly article, you can follow the flow of it just by glancing at it, right? So we're going to just kind of look at that. All journals have their own guidelines. When you pick a journal, follow their guidelines. Essentially, when you're an editor looking at journals, the title comes first, right? So the title should relate to the purpose and include keywords, and it should differentiate that manuscript from others with similar titles. For instance, if you see the word review in the title, then you know it's a review article, right? If you see the word qualitative in the title, then you know it's a qualitative. And some of you are going, what is qualitative? I don't even know what that is, but qualitative. So that might be something you don't spend time writing. And so you know, okay, this article is a qualitative article, not a quantitative article, right? So the title gives you those keywords that tell you what kind of an article it is. Then the abstract, all journals have their own guidelines for abstracts. They may or may not look alike. Some are structured, some are unstructured, and they give you the structure of what they want, meaning that they have headings. Like, how many of you have noticed that? Some abstracts have headings. Some abstracts don't have headings. Well, that's according to the journal guidelines. So that's just kind of it enables the editors and the researchers to scan the papers quickly. So when you're looking for purpose and meaning in the draft, now this is what you, the editor, would do. You look for it. How is it structured? What's the research question? What's the answer to the research question? And by the way, that answer is usually the first sentence of the discussion. So when, remember that Starbucks, you walk in and you look around. So the question should be the last paragraph of the intro, and the answer should be the first sentence of the discussion. So these are just some tips for you on, oh, when I'm reading it, oh, I never noticed that before. That's how it's structured. And then what conclusions do the authors make based on their findings? You review the manuscript and say, okay, I'm not seeing that in the tables. I'm not seeing that in the figures. So you can tell the author, I didn't see that in your figures. Maybe you need to show different data in your manuscript. Where are the methods? So there are two different flows of article structure, which I'm going to share in a second here. And then what do the figures and tables show? So the two structures that you will generally see in a scholarly article are IMRAD, which is intro, methods, results, and discussion, or ERDAM, which is, I'm not making this up, it's just what it's called. Intro, results, discussion, and methods. And then some journals, occasionally you will see the results and the discussion together. But the journal has to specify that. I wouldn't write it that way unless you know you're writing for a particular journal. I would write it either IMRAD or ERDAM. And putting the methods last is usually because they're very technical methods, and a journal might want them to be last or even separated. So you've probably seen that as well. And then of course, reviews, commentaries, editorials, letters, those all have their own structure. Review articles typically will have as their methods how they did the review. So a literature review, the methods section will be not the methods of the science that they're reviewing. It will have how did we approach PubMed? What were our exclusion categories? Well, we did it over the last 10 years and we use these search terms. And it usually includes a Prisma diagram that shows the exclusions, etc. So these are just some things to kind of keep in your head. All right, some tools to help with reviewing. You've got the author guidelines. If you join PSERT, I can send you a sample editor's checklist that shows what goes in each section of the intro, the methods, the results, discussion. I'm not going to go over that now, but we do have a checklist for that. And then Grammarly. And a note on Grammarly. Wait, is Joyce here? She's not here.
No.
She had to go. Okay, okay. So Joyce brought it up to me this week that we were having a little problem with Grammarly. So if you are interested in having Grammarly, which is a grammar check software, technically IS&T should give you Grammarly, but because you are staff, you're not really staff, you're actually learners at Jefferson, they have been rejecting these requests. So you need to override that and go back to IS&T and say, according to Anthony Frisbee, who is our provost over, associate provost over the libraries, we are learners and should have access to Grammarly. So please, if you get rejected, go back to them. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to share a very recent experience
Yeah.
with Grammarly. So Grammarly was working fine for me. And I think we get premium account for Grammarly.
We get the premium.
Not only Grammarly, but the premium with Jefferson. And what you said happened to me. All of a sudden, I called IS&T, so like, we can't help you. Then I reached out to the library, and all you mentioned, then I had an email from the librarian, send it to IS&T, and then everything is working fine. But I just wanted to share my experiences.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm sorry about that. I don't know what the problem is, but you are eligible to get Grammarly. These resources are for you and you should be able to have them. Grammarly will do a grammar check. You know, that's why I said you don't need to know grammar to be an editor for PSERT. You need to know the scientific method, which I think you know, right? You know how to look at something and say whether it's logical, whether it flows, whether the ideas come together, whether they're supported. That's you. You know that. All right. So other things, avoiding plagiarism. Authenticate is another resource we have on our website, or the library's website. You can run your manuscripts through Authenticate, and it will tell you whether you have sections of it that are plagiarized or not. Grammarly also has a function, but Authenticate is more robust. So we also have citation management tools, so please use those. Make sure that you're going to the library website, downloading. How many of you use citation management tools now? Okay. Yeah,
like
yeah.
EndNote.
EndNote,
Uh-huh.
yeah, we have EndNote, RefWorks, SciWheel, they're all supported. There are plenty of other ones, but they're not supported, so these are supported by Jefferson.
Sorry, one more
Mhm.
point about SciWheel, because we use SciWheel throughout our lab. You can use it for if you're writing on Google Doc, and I recently downloaded its app, so that if you want to read on the train or something, it's just like all the same. It's wonderful.
Yeah, SciWheel's great, SciWheel's great. All right, and I do want to show you the library website because, hang on. We do have some money available on the library website. And I want to point this out to you. How many of you have been first authors on something? First authors? Okay. Or are planning to be? I hope that's coming up soon. All right, so we have a fund for open access publishing. If you are considering open access publishing, I know that people sometimes stay away from that because there might be fees associated with it. But we do have a fund for that. And if you go to the Scott website and you click on the research tab, see this research, and you go down, lots of things, ask a librarian. They'll work with you on systematic reviews if you're working on one of those. You make an appointment with them. Make an appointment with them for grant and funding opportunities. I know sometimes postdocs say, oh, I'm not eligible for these NIH grants. There are other grants that are available to you, right, that you're eligible for. If you haven't made a pivot account, you might consider doing that. So you meet with the librarian, they will help you set up that account, and then you begin to track some of the funding that's available to you. Okay, yes.
Can I just do a self-advertisement here? Like every year, JPA also organize like we call it a BFAC workshop where we,
Yes.
it's a run writing workshop. So we do all this, like we schedule with a librarian, we also have like PSERT sessions and everything. So it's a good opportunity for those who want to improve or other grants writing or want to apply for grants.
Thank you.
Yes,
Perfect.
thanks.
Perfect segue. All right. So lots of things here that are related to writing. The open access publishing section here will tell you all about open access publishing, but also this open access publishing fund, which is $2,500 once a year, first come, first serve, and it's for the first author. But if you're publishing with someone else in another institution, then they make you split it with them. So if maybe you came from another institution, they'll come back to you and say, okay, that other author has to pay, let's say $1,250 and you pay $1,250. Okay, something else that I think people aren't aware of.
That's even if the correspondent author is from Jefferson.
No, then you get the full amount. If
Oh,
they're
okay.
Jefferson, if they're from another institution, then they ask you to divide it.
Okay, so but if we collaborate, there are like 4 people, and then like the first author is for Jefferson, the correspondent author is for Jefferson, but there are like collaborations.
Yeah.
So we get the full money.
Yes, you get the
Okay.
full $2,500. First author gets the $2,500 for the fees.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And all of the guidelines are on here. We also have multiple publishers that have agreements with us for waiving open access fees. So the American Chemical Society, BMJ Case Reports, which you're probably not writing case reports, Company of Biologists, Microbiology Society, Springer, Palgrave, ADIS, and then Wiley Hindawi, except that Wiley, just so you know, we've already maxed out for the year. So we have to wait until January for Wiley again, because we published so many in Wiley, but they waived the fees for publishing open access. And those are just agreements that we've negotiated. And then it lists a bunch that have no APC charges. So consider going to the website and checking it out. All right, questions about this?
Ask about the open access, how fast or slow it is and how much paperwork is needed for that. Because usually the decision to make it open access or not is after the paper is accepted. So you're usually like.
We don't do it with, so that's when there's a choice, when it's a hybrid journal, Jefferson won't fund that. They only fund journals that are straight open access. Yeah. Yeah. I hope that answers the
Yeah, so
question.
it means that you have to submit to
An open access.
only.
Correct, correct. And that's if you already know that's what you're going to do. Okay, they are. That's true. All right, we're gonna look this. I'm gonna try to go as quickly as I can through this because I know you don't want a lot of grammar in here, but I'm gonna give you a few tips to make your writing a little clearer. All right, so improving paragraphs. Subheadings, use them a lot. They introduce the topic and they make it easier for the reader to read. First sentences should give the main point. Often people just get lost. They just start a new paragraph and they don't know why. It's just because the last paragraph was too big. So that first sentence should be a topic sentence. Then the rest of the paragraph should have evidence and analysis. The last sentence may be a link to the next paragraph or it could conclude it. And use transitional words, everybody. You know what those are? First, next, last, furthermore, moreover, thus. Use those words. Lots of them. They help with reading. All right, clarifying. There she is.
Here am I.
Yeah, good. All right. Clarifying sentences, really basic in English, subject, verb. The experiment showed, the data confirmed. Subject, verb, object, the experiment showed results. Right, so just keep it as basic as you can so that other scientists can understand what you, I mean, how many of you have ever gotten lost in a sentence in a scholarly paper? All of us, right? That's because the sentences go on too long, right? Too many ideas in one sentence. So try to keep it really basic. Few things to think about when you're really simplifying. Think about your verbs. So use strong verbs, not just is, make, and have, right? Those are not strong verbs. Think about the verb purpose and think about the tense. So use strong verbs. No, these are structures that you will see a lot. We came to the realization this is an investigation of, our method made an improvement on. Instead, look for the MENT word and the ION word and make that a verb. So improve. Our method improved. Instead, our method is an improvement on. See the MENT, ION? We call those zombie nouns. ION, MENT. These are quick tips, everybody. Quick tips. But you'll start to notice that. Oh, I use a lot of MENTs. And you can turn those into verbs. All right, let's try it. The oversight committee was in agreement with the decision to make an application for the grant. Can you get rid of the zombies? Yeah. First one's good.
Yeah, I kind of hold up there.
Anybody else? Joyce.
Oversight committee was agreed to make grant application.
The second part is good. So the oversight committee agreed with the decision to apply for the grant. Yes, exactly. So you're just cutting words. Why is this important? Because how many of you have ever had to cut the word count in your scholarly papers? These are the tricks. These are the tricks. You go back in and you cut the word count, but you don't change the meaning. All right. So I said I was going to quiz you. We're going to get to the quiz. All right. So here's the oversight committee. All right. So choose the right verb for the purpose. Instead of using is all the time and made an improvement, use research and science words like apply, assess, discuss, explain, right? These are actual verbs instead of just is and make. I'll circulate these if you're interested. I'll circulate the slides, but join PSERT and you'll be trained on this even more. All right, getting the verb tense. can be challenging. And in science writing, typically you only use two. Look how many there are there. Indicate, indicated, will indicate, have indicated, had indicated. No, skip all of that. You only use two, sometimes three. All right, so why do we use the present tense? We use present and past, sometimes future. We use the present tense for things that are generally true, tables and figures, accepted work. Past, what you did, what you saw, what others reported. And then future would be what's ahead. So here are some examples. What is generally true? HIV virus infects its host cells by. Present tense. This is because this is what it does. It's generally true. Tables and figures. Table 1 shows the differences. And then accepted work, Einstein's theory provides a framework for. So we all know who Einstein is, right? That is accepted work. Well, I mean, it's theory, but it's an accepted theory, okay? That's different from this. So past tense would be, we collected tissue samples. You did that. It happened in the past, right? What you saw, the hammer-toe mice exhibited syndactyly. That's what happened. And what others reported. So Jones et al. Observed the same anomaly in 2016. They're not observing it. This happens a lot in writing. It'll say, Jones observes the same in 2016. No, that happened in the past. And remember, present tense for accepted work, past tense for what others reported. All right, trimming sentences without trimming meaning. This is when your abstract is 300 words and it needs to be 250. Okay, this is how you do it. Use the active voice more, cut false subjects, and cut wordy phrases. So, active voice. The game was won by the Eagles is passive. If you use Grammarly, it will tell you you're passive. The Eagles won the game. So, subject, verb, object. Syndactyly is exhibited by hammer-toe mice. That is a passive sentence. Notice, again, is and by. That's a helping verb and a preposition. So hammer-toe mice exhibit syndactyly means the same thing. It's just active, not passive. You're eliminating two words, right? So you're closer to the 250 instead of the 300. The data are influenced by the methods influence the data. So you're flipping the sentence around and getting rid of those prepositions. When I was in school, the way I learned it was a preposition was anything a squirrel could do to a tree. By the tree, for the tree, under the tree, over the tree, in the tree, out of the tree. Okay, those are prepositions. If you're using a lot of them in science writing, you might be passive, you might be wordier than you need to be. So these are little tricks. Cut false subjects. It is and there are. Everyone uses them. As soon as you have to fill pages, right? When you were an undergraduate, right? Remember filling pages? Whatever language you were writing in, you were filling pages, right? You learned the tricks of how to lengthen your writing. And then you became a PhD student. And they said, oh, you need to tighten this up and write an abstract. And you went, I don't know how to do that. I'm wordy. What can I say? You rewarded me for 15 years for this. And now all of a sudden you have to be tight. So these are examples. It is possible that chromosomal rearrangement is one cause. Chromosomal rearrangement is one possible cause. Just get rid of the false subject. Wordy phrases, use 2 words instead of 5. So as a matter of fact could be in fact. Without variation could be constant. For the purpose of for. All right, here's the quiz. Let's see. And we're going to make it competitive because postdocs are competitive by nature. All right. This is 20 words. See if you can cut it down to 15 words or fewer without changing the meaning. Let's see how you do.
Can I try?
Uh-huh.
The acquisition of new elements was introduced novelty in evolution at an early point.
Okay. The acquisition of new elements.
The acquisition introduced novelty in our evolution.
The acquisition
Introduced
introduced
novelty in
novelty
evolution
in
at an early point.
at an early time. Very good. Okay, anybody else? Was missing one word.
So we can say the acquisition of new elements, may.
Yes,
pos-
may.
May or possibly.
Yeah, may.
no, but-
That word may means possible. So to make the meaning the same, you have to have the word may. All right, so here's, very good. I saw all of you suddenly get very intent. Really looking at this now. All right. So here's another one. Acquiring new elements early may introduce novelty in evolution. And one of my students in scientific writing this week on Wednesday night looked at this and said, well, you could make this 8 words if you said evolutionary novelty. And I went, okay, that's 8 words. Wow. So you're 250 words now. You did it. You went from 300 to 250. And that's why I did this exercise. So you could see this is something you are all capable of doing just by looking at the patterns in the writing. But that's not your job as a PSERT editor. Your job is not to make it 250 words. That's the author's job. Yours is to give suggestions and say, here are some things that might be helpful to you. You're using a lot of passive sentences. Try using Grammarly. It might help you. All right. Then proofreading. I'm going to do a couple of tips on this. How many F's do you see in this sentence? The numbers keep going up. All right. So there's 6. 6. But when you read it in your head, you hear of as a V, not an F. And so you may have skipped a couple of those in the reading of it. And that's why I always encourage people to read out loud. I'm going to give you a couple of tips for proofreading. Work carefully. And again, this isn't the job of the PSERT editor to carefully proofread. We're really looking at the content more than anything. And I'm just giving you these tips so that you have it for your own purposes. But read it aloud, isolate the line on the screen or the page. I use a ruler and I, carefully look at every single line. Print a hard copy, although, I don't like to kill trees, but if that helps you, do it. Read from the bottom up. The United States sent a rocket out into space that never came back because of a hyphen that was missing in code. It is still out there. We don't know where it's gone. That's billions of dollars wasted because of a poorly proofread hyphen. Okay, so be careful about your check all your visuals, all your headings, all your labels, and your graphics for errors, because if you put that in there, maybe the reviewer will miss it, right? And it's in there and everybody misses it and now it's in print. So be careful about that. And I'm just going to give you one last point on that. So before I came to Jefferson, I was a consultant and I worked with government agencies, pharmaceutical companies, all sorts of different writing projects. And I had a client who on their website that said public record, they had misspelled the word public. And it was a correct word. No one caught it until I looked at it and it said pubic record. And it was on a US government website. And I went, did anybody notice this? No. So that's a little embarrassing, right? You don't want that in your papers. Not cool. Okay, so how to give constructive feedback. And this is important if you become an editor. So begin with positive comments, the things that went well in that paper, good graphics, it was clearly explained, good abstract, etc. And then when you give suggestions, use command verbs. So tell people how to fix it, right? Avoid criticism that doesn't have a fix. Well, this was pretty vague. Okay, well, that comment was vague. You have to be specific about your feedback and say, move this here or add justification. Add this, take this out so that the writer knows how to fix it. Here are some suggestions. This seems to suggest the main issue may be exploring the role of protein X, but the gap isn't explicit. So you're just telling them something wrong with it. Whereas show the gap is a clear command. Show the gap. Try something like studies have explored protein Z, yet no studies have explored the role of protein X. So really being clear about how to fix that problem.
To be frank, no. I was in that thought that usually parents will take care on that because.
Oh, hello? Oh, okay. Okay, so coming back, bringing it all together. We're coming down to the end here. If you're now thinking, maybe I am a little bit interested in joining PSERT, let Ankita know. Get your paperwork signed by your PI. It basically says that you can give us about 6 to 8 hours a year, right? We're not asking for a lot of commitment. We're asking you to read 1 or 2 papers a year. And then you'll sign a confidentiality agreement that says if someone submits a paper that's on cold fusion, you're not going to go solve cold fusion by stealing their work, right? You're just not going to talk about what we do in PSERT. And if you want to submit to PSERT, please do let Ankita know, because we want your papers. We are always looking to help postdocs, and if, I mean, this is free, so submit it, right? Before you send it to your PI. And of course, you're always welcome to submit it to me. I'm not in competition with PSERT, but for those of you who aren't familiar with the work that I do, I'm here for you, right? So I would start with PSERT, but if you have something that's ready to go and you just need it polished before you send it out, please send it to me. I'm happy to review it. I review posters. I work with people who are presenting. Loved the presentations yesterday. They were amazing. And the posters, they were outstanding. So please know that I'm a resource for all of you. And use the Scott Library website that I showed you. And of course, reach out to us. Any questions? Future volunteers. Well, it was a pleasure to meet. Oh yeah, you do. Question.
Yes. As you are aware of ChatGPT.
Yeah, ChatGPT.
Right? So I write my article and there are many variations in my article. I put it in directly in the ChatGPT. Maybe I will get a refined version. And then there is a Grammarly who can check my Grammarly.
So I want to make a point. Thank you for asking about ChatGPT. So first of all, ChatGPT is not signing any confidentiality agreements. So you should not be putting your papers into chat. And if you're a reviewer, you cannot put your papers into chat as a reviewer. I know that reviewers were doing this for a while, but the JAMA network and all of these different journals came out and said, no, because it goes into a large language model. And now all of your proprietary information is in a large language model. So you can use chat. You can use chat. Don't use it as for review purposes. If you want to use chat, go to the journals and check out their guidelines on how to use chat and how to attribute it, because you can acknowledge it in the methods section or in the acknowledgements section, and you have to specify how you used it. So it's not that you can't use chat, but you can't use it as a reviewer. And I wouldn't use it as a PSERT reviewer because that would breach the confidentiality. Thank you for bringing that up. Does that answer your question? Okay, good. You had a question?
My question was the same thing. That like in the era of ChatGPT, how do you think like PSERT activities or in general, like doing that?
Yeah, we still more than ever need peer review, because chat can't look at it and say, you need to move this up here and you need to do this, which is what editors do for you. You know, chat can look at it and say, here are 12 other articles that might be related to this. Also, you know about hallucinations, right? Everybody knows about no? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are called hallucinations. So chat, you ask chat to give you some topical background on something, and it'll give you 10 articles about that topic. You can look up those articles and find that seven are good and 3 are made up. They are made up and they have legitimate DOI numbers that are to other articles, not the same articles, right? So these are called hallucinations. This is why you have to be very careful using chat, because it can steer you wrong, and you want to be extremely careful about your scholarship. So yes, thank you for raising that whole issue of chat. It's a tool. Everybody's using chat. Everybody's using these large language models, but you must be judicious about how you use them, because they do breach confidentiality, and they aren't going to necessarily enrich your scholarship, right? So you want to be sure that whatever you're sending out, you have checked every single reference. You know that everything in there is a real article by a real author. And for your protection, right? For your protection. Good questions, though. Any other questions?
Probably basically a lot of manipulation in our figures. Do we consider about those things, or it's just only like sometimes the figures or things they are kind of manipulated?
Oh, we're getting that tool. There's Proofig. Yeah, I can't remember if we've already subscribed to that, but we're getting the subscription to that to enable you to check your figures and tables. Did you have another question? No, okay. And once I know if we have Proofig, I will let everybody know. Yeah, I'll get the word out through Lisa Kozlowski, so you know. If we haven't already gotten it, so I'll check today. Any other questions? Raise your hand if you're a little interested in PSERT now. A little. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Is there anything like, once we just get in the team and there's kind of a tenure system, or is it until you leave Jefferson, not only like, is it even there if I'm a postdoc here, but at certain time point, I move to another university?
Oh.
So at that point, like, can I still be a team? Or like, once you're out of the Jefferson, you're out.
Are you getting ready to leave? Is that what you're saying? So I'm going to say this, because I am always open to collaboration with other schools. We haven't had a question like this, but let's say you go somewhere else. Let's just say you go to Penn, right? So you go across town and now you're over at Penn. Maybe you're in a new position over in Penn, but you want to participate in what we're doing. I would say, Ankita, there's room for exploring this idea of collaboration with another school. Why not? Or found your own organization and we'll be buddies. I think it's a great idea.
I think it has to be more people in the team, the more benefits.
Yes. Agreed. So some of our graduates, some of the people who have been in PSERT and have gone on to be editors of journals. One of them is a faculty at a pharmacy university, and he was our editor-in-chief before Ankita. Another one is now faculty in the Cancer Center. So really, I feel like PSERT was part of that journey to becoming, editors and faculty. It only strengthens your ability to read manuscripts. That's what it's for. Okay. Any other questions? All right, please let Ankita know if you are interested. But, I had one other thing that's not related to PSERT at all, everybody. So I am on the editorial board for a journal of literary medicine. And every year we put this journal out. This is creative writing, right? Essays, poetry. And each year the topic changes. Last year it was LGBTQ plus voices. This year is growing, learning, aging. Every single person in this room is growing, learning, and aging, right? Poetry, essays. The prize is $2,500. Second place is $1,000 and third place is $500, and you get published in this lovely journal. So please, take one of these or take a picture of the QR code, take one of these if you want to. I can get more of these. And by all means, think about it. December 31st is the deadline. I know you have papers to write and everything else, but we would love to hear your stories about aging and growing and learning. Postdocs, that's what you're doing. You're aging, growing, learning. All right, nice to meet you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.